Photography Daily is a Loading Zone production.
It's not a photo walk edition today per se, although I am in Brighton next to the seafront to tell you about this extra edition of Photography Daily, which is all about partnerships. I think as photographers we have an ultimate partnership, don't we? That of the partnership with our camera. It's a very personal relationship. We choose according to how we shoot, what we enjoy to shoot, perhaps ergonomics, size of, or body weight perhaps if we're travellers. Our choices are definitely like fingerprints to the identity of our work. And I often talk about this show not being about the kit. I don't personally think I'm the most technical photographer. Yet I find myself instinctively drawn to make pictures in a certain way or method where the results are often lower key. I avoid flash, not because I can't use it, though I profess to have a limited knowledge, but because I prefer the look of a photograph that's been made availably lit, and the challenge sometimes of making that happen. But Neil, I hear you counter. You can do that with flash, you just have to, oh look, is that a dolphin? See, that's the thing about this thing that we love, isn't it? We all have different ways to use a painting analogy of making our marks on the canvas. If we all use the same paints and the same strokes and the same, well, you get my drift. Camera bodies, well, they may be the same for many of us, but the way we use them most certainly isn't. So even though I don't profess to be what I would describe as a technical photographer, I certainly know what I like to make and what I like to use to do so. And through the years, I've chopped and changed, and I've tried new kit, but I always seem to return to an old faithful, or faithfuls as it were. For me, that's it's a brand really, or two in my case. Canon and Fujifilm digitally, though I'm also a Nikon and Leica user now when I take my film fix, but each of those cameras, I definitely use them for a reason. Metaphorically, they're my numbered clubs in the golf bag, each good for seeing me through to the green for particular and personal choice reasons. So today is one of those few shows I'll present about kit. It's about kit, but it kind of isn't really. It's certainly about partnerships, and a very special one that we've had on this show for over a year now. And that partnership has been one of the driving forces behind keeping this show as an on-the-button every Friday show with the occasional specials. 273 episodes now, 18 months. That's a marathon in many respects. And if you talk to podcasters around the world, they'd probably concur that is an upload schedule. And I've been really proud of it, and proud to have you along on that journey with me. Buy, sell and trade your used cameras, lenses and kit through MPB.com. That's been my rallying call, hasn't it, during the shows? After which I go on to tell you about how this special company was formed literally out of a bedroom, or how many thousands of football pitches worth of plastic bubble wrap have been saved by moving to recycled packaging, and other sustainability stories, which, of course, we'll mention more during this special, plus a myriad of other facts and figures about the circular economy. So MPB, yes, they've been our sponsor, and I wanted to thank them and take us both on a tour of their Brighton HQ, where quality used camera kit, well, that's their currency. A company that now also has bases in Brooklyn in the States and Berlin in Europe. But finding MPB as a partner for this show was really special for me for several reasons. Three actually. One, I use them myself. I've bought kit through MPB, I've sold kit through them, and I've traded, which means my kit has found a new home when I've needed to move on in my choice of what takes space in the camera bag. Two, this show is international, and though MPB don't have bases everywhere in the world yet, they help and assist photographers in the places this show is most listened. And number three, it's more than a business, as I've found out over the time that they've supported us. It's actually a community, and that's perhaps the most important thing. And you know me, I talk a lot about how important community is. A great many of those who work at MPB are often, as you'll hear, photographers and content creators. They've a genuine passion for making pictures and helping you and I to do the same. So this is our tour, a rather different episode of MPB. And a thank you just prior to Christmas for their help in keeping this show on the rails. And I suppose it's like an advertorial, but I thought you might be interested to go behind the scenes, as it were, to meet some of the people who have, I think, the best job in the world in many respects, working in an Aladdin's cave of cameras. I'm going to talk with the CEO, Matt Barker, who we've spoken with before, who's literally gone from trading Canon kit from a room in his house to guiding a business on 2 continents, employing hundreds of people, and he's going to give us a tour of some of the Brighton HQ, so you get an idea of why they do what they do and why things like sustainability are more than a corporate checkbox. And I've split our chats into bite-sized 5-minute conversations as we move around the warehouse, and I'm going to start with the man who said yes to our partnership late summer last year. This is Matt Barker, the founder of MPB.com. Matt, it's been a while since we last spoke. I think we were knee-deep in COVID lockdowns last time we spoke. And here we are now, able to talk to each other, unmasked, still a few meters apart. Seems to be the thing you have to say at the start of every single interview. What's it been like here?
No, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Last time we spoke, I think it was, in the middle of the second lockdown perhaps. And an awful lot has changed since then, in terms of what that means for MPB. We've just been continuing to expand our message and expand our reach. I think I'm right in saying last time we spoke we wouldn't have launched Germany, for example. That was a big thing that happened just after we last spoke, where we expanded properly out into Europe and opened a dedicated facility out in Berlin, creating more jobs out there and enabling us to better serve our European photographers and videographers. Yeah, in terms of the UK and the US and other aspects of what we do, we've expanded, continue to expand. I should think we're approximately 50% bigger in terms of number of customers we have today versus last time that we spoke.
So that's gone up. Video's gone up quite.
Video's gone up a lot.
Yeah.
Our overall reach has gone up a lot. We're touching a lot more content creators, in different parts of the world, and but in terms of what we're doing and how we go about what we do, it's much the same. And we're still the number one place online to buy, sell, and trade kit. We've still got the biggest choice, and we're prouder and prouder by the day in many respects of what we're achieving and what we're enabling for people.
COP26 has just closed, and one of the things that was spoken about during that conference was I heard the circular economy mentioned at least once. It is important, it is very current, it is a message that's now getting through, isn't it?
It is getting through. It's being spoken about an awful lot more, certainly. It's, I think, a term that a lot of people weren't familiar with 2 years ago, became familiar with almost through the pandemic. It really gathered speed and interest as a topic area and a way to solve some of the issues that we have around global warming, number one. So, I mean, in the context of COP26, you'll see a lot of focus around the idea, for example, that about 50% of the greenhouse gas emissions that we emit come from how we make things, right? About half of them come from how we use energy, how we drive cars and things like that. And the other half comes from how we make things. So the circular economy, for listeners that aren't familiar, really is about changing the thinking around how we produce the things that we need in life, and do that in a more sustainable way through, reusing materials more, through, it starts with how we design products more efficiently from the get-go, really, in terms of manufacturing, so we can reuse the inputs and so on. So in the context of MPB, at the heart of what we do, we recirculate products. We ensure that photographers' kit, be that cameras or lenses, doesn't sit there unused, goes to a new home, and in doing so, we are a big player now in ensuring that there is this movement forward that thinks about reuse, reducing waste, and hopefully in doing so, does its bit to contribute to reducing the issues that we have around global warming.
And that's at the heart, really, of the new change message, isn't it?
It is a big part of that, for sure. We've always thought of many aspects of what we do as a business as being kind of this circular motion of, kit in and kit out, and through doing that, we have our customers, often changing kit in the process, often, changing direction in terms of their creative output as a result of maybe a new lens purchase that they've made, and things like that. So yes, we have a current campaign running, our first campaign to have run across TV as well, across UK, Germany and US. The first time that we've ventured into really pushing investment here behind expanding the reach of the MPB brand, and what we stand for behind that, in terms of change. So yeah, it's been an exciting period and a big step forward for us as a business.
Matt Barker, who'll be our guide around MPB today. It's a hive of activity in the warehouse. It's an exciting place, I would imagine, to work, particularly if you're a photographer. There are a whole YouTube channels devoted to unboxing, but there's no way that even the most prolific unboxer would get to do the job that Charlotte has, with the wonderfully bright pink hair and tattoos, which may seem an odd thing to mention, but it does play into our chat in a moment. Charlotte possibly has one of the best jobs in the building. So Charlotte, first of all, what do you do?
I'm a receiver at MPB.
So a receiver means what? I guess that means receiving equipment.
Yeah, so basically the receiving is unboxing and waiting for the deliveries to come in the day. We also have to go through and obviously unbox everything to make sure it's all right and all there, and take care of everybody's equipment, basically.
So the unboxing, now I'm awful at boxing stuff. If I've ever sold to MPB, putting stuff back in a box it's like tessellation for me.
Yeah, I love it. I guess you sort of have to, it's like opening a new present every 5 minutes, basically.
And photographers love new stuff, don't they? And boxes.
They love it. It's just, you get some really good equipment coming in, so you get to see it all before anybody else does, really.
You're a photographer as well, I assume.
I am, yeah.
So that means when you see stuff come through, do you get kit envy?
I do. I personally take a lot of film photography, but I also own a Canon 6D, the original one. So it is, do get jealous when there's a lot of equipment, especially like Hasselblads and all the much newer stuff as well.
So it must be a temptation sometimes. You think, oh, that's coming early. I've got the lowdown on this one. I'll have that.
Obviously, I can't just take it and put it in my pocket.
No, I didn't mean it quite like that.
I wish you could. Yeah, we are allowed, if the transaction goes through, we are allowed to buy the equipment that comes in. So if someone particularly wants something, you can just put it aside and say, I want this, when it's done.
So what do you say you shoot with film? What do you like to photograph? I mean, here we are in the most amazing, as I said to Matt actually in my discussion, the most amazing city next to the sea. You're spoiled for choice here, aren't you?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's why I moved to Brighton, just because it's sort of like art central.
Yeah.
I take a lot of portraits and sort of, I like the artier side of photography. I'm not very technical, but I love a good arty style, especially like with the people you've got around in Brighton. Street photography is really good.
Is that street portraits then?
Street portraits, and I ask people as well for portraits. Sort of, we'll arrange a photo shoot, and usually it's all natural light, so I'll take them somewhere that I like.
Do you stop people in the street for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we talk about this a lot on the podcast actually, how people find the nerve to stop people, because I know for a lot of people it's this kind of, oh, I'm not sure, they might refuse me, I'll feel silly, or I might offend them. For all myriad of reasons, people don't find the personal strength to ask somebody. What's your tip?
A lot of the time I think I get asked a lot to be in a photo, just because I've got quite a few tattoos and piercings and crazy hair, especially in Brighton. They love it. But I think it sort of made me more confident, the fact that people were asking me, and I was quite scared to ask people. So every time someone asked me to be in a photo, I would ask them as well. So it's sort of like a swap.
There's a return.
Yeah. It's a good idea because then they'll obviously be like, oh yeah, if we're both doing it, might as well.
So that means your camera is always with you.
I always have a film camera with me most of the time.
What film camera do you use?
I have a medium format Pentax 645.
Nice.
Oh god, I've got so many. I've got about 60 cameras at home.
Oh my word.
Just film cameras.
Chosen film stock then.
I love a Kodak, just the cheapest one you can get. That's how I started, back when Poundland was selling them for £1, and I just loved it.
And do you dev yourself as well, or?
I used to. It's harder at the moment. I've been trying to talk to Matt and things about getting a darkroom and doing it in the warehouse.
Getting back to your unboxing then here, this is the best job in the world. You are like the professional unboxer.
I wouldn't say I'm a professional, but
what happens after this then? You unbox it and then what happens?
So we unbox it, we put it in a black tote or whatever coloured tote, depending on what transaction it is. So if we got
a tote is a big black box, basically.
It is a big black box. And then it gets taken over to our product specialists who then start the checking process.
Charlotte unpacking the camera kit that you send in to sell through mpb.com. In your podcast player up to date, you'll find a link to tour pictures that show the team at work and where your kit is photographed and prepped to become part of the circular economy. Back with the CEO, Matt Barker shares why this sustainability is important. Now, as photographers, we are well known for people call it gas, of course. We're well known for liking new, shiny toys. Do you think photographers now are appreciating the message of buying used more than they were before?
I think we are seeing a growing appreciation for shopping secondhand across a whole wide range of different product sectors. And I think photographers specifically, look, they've always shopped secondhand for sure. It's not a new thing. But I think the thing that's probably changed is less concern about must have the latest bit of kit and a greater degree of appreciation for the vast spectrum of kit that is out there. Particularly with lenses, where I think we have about 3,500 different lenses now on our database that get bought and sold. And if you look at the new market, it's probably 10% of that at any one time that's really being sold by retail. And that gives people more choices, it offers more value, and you get less depreciation of the value of those items over time, so people have more value when they then trade them in the future. Less stigma attached to not having the latest thing is definitely the change.
I suppose this is a good time to talk about the difference between it and, whilst being cautious to mention them by name, they do exist, eBay, because that was very much the reason why you set this company up all those years ago, because you didn't feel the experience that customers through platforms like eBay was as good as it could be.
One of the key benefits I think that our platform offers today, because of the scale that we now have, is that kind of the real curation of choice that we now have across kit. You won't find more choice in a more organised way, in a better described way, where you can really go in and make a choice about what bit of kit you want to have next. You won't find a better platform to do that on than MPB, I'll say that confidently. Going on eBay is a slightly different experience. They won't have the breadth that we have at times or the depth that we have at times. And fundamentally, the ability for the consumer to understand exactly what they're getting and not get surprised or disappointed potentially at the point of receipt. I think that's the issue that we try to solve for fundamentally for buyers, is to make sure that they're very clear what they're getting and they're paying the right price and they understand the bit of kit and there's no confusion there. And for sellers, it's just a lot easier. The value difference is now minimal between our platform and eBay for when people are selling, but the experience obviously of just a bit of kit picked up today, checked tomorrow and paid tomorrow is very different to the experience of selling on eBay. So we're proud of what we've achieved. We've come a long way. We're a much better platform today than we were 10 years ago when we started out, right? And I think we're a place where people like to spend time now because of the breadth and choice that we offer.
Is this literally an out of the back room success story? Because as I look around today, it's a huge warehouse. You must be very proud of it. I know you're expanding into buildings next door to this as well. You've mentioned Berlin. There's Brooklyn as well in the States. Did it literally start out of the back bedroom of Matt Barker's home?
It did, and I am really proud of that. That story slightly predates 2011, which was the official founding of MPB as we see it today. So we've just celebrated our 10th birthday, right? But I was buying and selling kit a little earlier than 2011, and yes, that started in my bedroom. We're a significantly scaled business now, and I am continuing to enjoy the challenge of leading it as CEO, and there's a lot of good work still to be done. There's an awful lot of things we're working on behind the scenes and exciting stuff to come.
Are you a hands-on boss, Matt? I saw you out there. As I walked in, I saw you there chatting with people that are working within the warehouse. How much do they see of you?
It's definitely an area that I'm trying to figure out at the moment as we've grown. So we are about 300 people, as I say. That's split across 4 locations now. We went through the pandemic where I was figuring out all different ways to stay connected to people when we couldn't travel and we couldn't see each other face to face. I spent a lot of time in the warehouse here during the pandemic because I wanted to stay as close to the team that I was able to stay close to, which was the UK warehouse team. So yeah, I would describe myself as a visible CEO, as visible as I can be. I like to, as I say, try to stay as connected as I can to every single person that we have and chat to people, and that's how you learn and that's how you understand how to do better as well. You always see opportunities to do better as you walk around. So, but I'm also fortunate to have a really strong senior team around me now, which means I am obviously less hands-on than I was, but no less connected, I hope.
Let's escape the cavernous meeting room for a moment and take a walk around the building with Matt. Nearer the start of the day, kit was arriving by the vanful.
The vast majority of these transactions, being the UK, will have been picked up from customers yesterday. What day of the week are we? It's Tuesday today, so it would have been picked up on a Monday. And it's about 11 a.m. that those tend to arrive into this particular location. And we would target having 90% of those turned around by the end of the day today. So they get checked into the building and scanned into the building so that customers get notified that their kit's arrived with us before being disaggregated into totes, which you can see over here, that all get marked up and barcoded, and then they get distributed to our product specialist teams who are sat behind us here. So we've got a big team here of product specialists, all of whom have got identical desk setups with mini product studios, running all of our in-house technology that will allow them to validate the products that they're receiving against the quotes that the sellers were provided. So make sure that the kit is as expected, that the items are what we thought they were, figure out whether they are actually better condition than expected or not quite as good. So I think I'm right in saying around 80% of transactions that come in will go through as priced. We make adjustments to about 20% of products, but those adjustments are up and down. I think there's a belief that when we talk about adjustments, it's always decreasing what we're paying, and we do. People will always be customers, sellers will always be paid the correct value for their kit, where we will often increase the value of what they've been quoted as much as we might have to make adjustments in the other direction occasionally. But 80% of them go through as price. They go through a strict validation process, whether they're a body or a lens, or one of this is 7,500 different items that we allow people to buy, sell, and trade, or facilitate the buying and selling and trading of. So yeah, we have this, as I described, this kind of circular flow where we have the inbound transactions coming in the morning. Those get pushed through the teams here, checked. The transactions will then be processed through for the sellers, and they'll be notified, and they would expect to be paid by the end of the day. So all the transactions that have gone through where we've got the payment details from customers, the cash will be in their bank by this evening. If people are trading with us, then they will get notified that they are ready to settle the balance on the transaction. Again, that could be us owing them a balance or them owing us a balance, and we'll aim to ship those items today. So if you've got trade-in transactions arriving now, the customers, assuming that they're there and ready to finish the transaction on their side, they will ship out at 5 p.m. today and get their new product tomorrow. So yeah, that goes through there. We'll wander in a minute. Everything is stored in a secure facility in one, sort of 25% of the facility here is given over to storage, where everything's secured away, then picked out of the other side to dispatch where we can't see where we're stood at the moment. And again, you come back all the way around in that circle where at 5 o'clock all the orders are then going. This area that we're in now converts into an outbound area rather than an inbound area. And all of our sites, Berlin, Brooklyn as well, are all built identically as much as we can within the footprints of the buildings to create this circular workflow of product that very much reflects that big picture of what we're doing in terms of recirculating products.
This is a very slick operation, isn't it? I'm watching the studio setup, and of course, this makes sense because every single piece of kit you see, that's the actual piece that's photographed.
It is the actual piece that's photographed. So, you'll see people as you walk around, they could be photographing a battery that's, valued £10 because there's an additional battery to a transaction there. So as much as we give every product, regardless of value, the same treatment, and then when it lands on the platform, everything has actual photographs of the actual product, what we also make sure that we do is attach value to every part of a transaction. So if there's an extra battery in there, we don't just throw that in when we resell the body. We will add value to the quote and make sure the seller is really maximising their value right down to the last accessory, and make sure that is then again finds a new home. But yeah, you're right. Every product goes online with anywhere between sort of 4 and 8 photographs of the actual product, all in identical studio settings, all with the same output and processing on the other side, so they all look the same. And so therefore people can really pick up the details in terms of the condition of what they're buying, and the system that we've built as well will also automate the output of the description of the condition of the item, exactly what it comes with. Does it come with the charger? Does it come with the right, the original battery or a non-OEM battery? Does it come with a strap? Does it come with a lens hood? Does it come with a tripod collar? And then the values are adjusted to reflect some of those things as well. Because some people care about different things. So, some people care about having the collar. Some people want, they don't care about the cosmetics. They just want the cheapest version of it. Some people want the most perfect condition item, and so on and so forth, and we have all of those.
Matt Barker will return in a moment to talk more about the business, and we'll take a bit more of the touring with him as well. And today I've brought you to Brighton to do something you so rarely hear when it comes to show sponsors, a tour. And in our case, that means being on the floor of the UK warehouse of MPB.com, who buy and sell and trade used camera kit online. And hopefully by now you're getting to understand a little more about the business that so many of you and I use and trust, with the kit that we need, kit that we want to change up into, and kit we want to sell so another photographer can enjoy the use of. If you're shopping for used kit, you want to know what state it's in, and having a pictorial record as much as a ratings-based one is important to customers, including me. If the description says good as new, I want to see a picture that shows me that. Or if I'm thinking, you know what, I'm not so worried if it's got a scratch or 3, I want to see that too. And that's where the team that photograph all the hundreds of thousands of items come in, which is a fair challenge. Here's Alex, who has the job as part of his daily commitment to make sure what you and I read and what you and I see when we're buying is accurate. So we're in the middle of what was colloquially called the pit. This is the pit. It doesn't feel very the pit because it's beautiful and light and
it's quite green.
Yeah, it is quite green. And you're working in front of a light tent.
Yes. So
what is behind the cloth? Oh, right.
In here I've got sort of our on-desk studio, I suppose you could call it. So, it's one of the cameras that we're checking today. Pops it straight in here, and then we've got a camera here tethered up to Lightroom. So yeah, anything that we sort of capture as we go pops straight up in here. We'll then post our images up on the website.
So your job then, so this becomes clear. Alex's job is takes a piece of kit, could be a camera, could be a lens, whatever, puts it into this small desktop white infinity cove, as it were. You photograph it. Every single piece of kit that you see on the website has its own individual picture. It's not a picture that you've borrowed, that you've made already.
That's correct. So any kit that people want to sell to us, obviously come in the doors, it gets divvied up in the mornings, and then we'll get a crate of stock, and then our job is to basically check over it, function test it, clean it, check that it's up to scratch, check that it's in the same condition that the customer thinks that it is, and that we would then choose to sell it at. And then once we've checked it over, we photograph it, and then goes up on the website.
This is a quick turnaround product photography, really, isn't it?
Exactly that.
When you're
Exactly
when you're photographing, you've become quite the product specialist, actually, in that respect as well. When you're photographing these, do they have to be at a particular angle? I mean, I can see this. What have we got here? We've got a D50. Okay.
So we really do get everything.
Yeah. So this is at a 45-degree angle. Is that the way that you always place it?
Exactly. So it creates sort of continuity throughout the website. So if you're scrolling through, you might see that, for example, we've got 10 50Ds in stock. You're going to want to make sure that if you're scrolling through, there's continuity through the website. So you've got one so obviously showing the front and the side, one showing the back and the sides, and then top and bottoms. And the same with lenses as well. So you're wanting to see sort of front elements, rear elements, and then all-round cosmetic condition of the item.
Not that you're ever planning to leave, clearly, he says quickly, but if you did, you would be the ultimate product photographer specialist, wouldn't you? Able to fire through this stuff.
I guess so as well, and it leads on to sort of taking jobs outside of work as well. So if you wanted to, I don't know, photograph, say, sofas or larger items, you would just be able to scale up the skills, scale up sort of lighting techniques, and obviously we have the small studios here as well.
Did you have this skill before you came here?
No, I was just into photography, I mainly people. So now I take pictures for MPB as things that don't move so much.
But when you're out of here, what do you shoot with and what do you photograph?
So I'm a Fuji shooter. I've got an X-T3 and a couple of prime lenses. I shoot a lot of film as well, mainly street photography and portraiture.
Isn't that interesting? I've spoken with a few people around here that all shoot film, and I did ask Matt whether you'd look at film cameras here. I know it's a totally different and a very difficult thing to test, because you'd have to put a roll of film through every single camera.
It opens up so many more untickable boxes for people sending in equipment, because obviously the checking process is so long and so much different.
Well, film is going through a renaissance period again, isn't it? So what do you shoot with, and what film stock?
So I've got a Pentax ME Super, which I've had for many years, and I've got a Bronica ETRS medium format 645. That's quite a new acquisition. And then film, I mean, because it's so expensive at the moment, whatever I can get my hands on, I'm not that fussy.
Black and white or colour?
Both, bit of both. Usually black and white, because it's a bit easier, and especially if you're buying out of date stuff, the tolerances are higher.
How many cameras do you shoot a day here?
Anything from 20 to 50.
Wow.
Yeah, which is always really nice as well, because you're getting in. At the moment we're dealing with some quite old kit, but then you're dealing with sort of the newest medium format cameras or the newest Sony mirrorless stuff. So it's always nice to sort of be able to get your hands on and have a play around with all kinds of different varieties of stock.
I bet when you see a GFX come through, or an XT, maybe you've seen a couple of XT4s. I know they're quite new, but you might have seen a few. You've definitely seen some X Pro 3s. There must be moments where you think, Alex, I need this.
Yes, exactly. There's always the gas conversation here, so it's I'll pop into the stock room, grab one of the nice lenses, and grab one of the other members of staff, and we'll have a little shoot.
Do you get a chance to take them away ever to use them? No, probably not.
Cameras, not so much, but there have been times where I've shot an event or a certain person, and lenses they're quite good with, as long as it's below a certain condition, and obviously nobody's showing interest online.
So is there a piece of kit at the moment that if you put that in your light box right now, you'd say, I'm having that?
I'd like a nice portrait prime, I think, for my Fuji system. Maybe an 85, maybe a 90. But I mean, at the moment, I've got a 50mm and a 35mm equivalent, which I've had since I bought the camera a few years ago now, and I've just fallen in love with. And even the 18 to 55 kit lens for Fuji is very good, as far as they come. So the 18 to 55 range.
Well, I think we know what floats Alex's photographic boat. And it's that kind of passion for photography that makes, I think, all the difference. I know that those working on the shop floor, as it were, aren't just doing it for the 9 to 5 and holiday pay, They're doing it because they're genuinely interested also in making their own pictures and being creative and knowing about the cameras that they sell, as Matt Barker shares.
One of the things that always impressed me if I called through to MPB was to talk to somebody who actually shared a passion with me for the kit that I was buying. And if they didn't share a passion with Canon or Fuji, which are my two preferred brands, they would know of somebody just down the way that could speak Canon language or Fujifilm language. How much work do you put into promoting and getting hold of what you call product specialists that really care about photography, rather than going into a shop and somebody reading off the instructions on the back of a box? You've worked hard at getting people that talk photography.
Yes, many people that work here would call themselves, content creators outside of MPB. Many of them are people that also earn additional income from photography, videography, filmmaking, and so on. That's just as true in Berlin as it is in Brooklyn, as it is in Brighton. Yeah, we worked hard on it at the beginning. We always had to work hard on it at the beginning, and that was true when we went to Berlin and when we went to Brooklyn at the beginning. And then I think there's this slightly organic thing that takes hold, where once you become known as a place where people can feel at home and amongst peers and colleagues, where they have this kind of shared passion, it's quite organic actually in terms of how we hire people now. We have a lot of recommendations and referrals through employees joining the business. So we've managed to maintain that. And as I say, I think for where we are now, it does feel very organic, and it's a really core part of our culture.
And what about getting hold of stock? Because that must be a constant battle. As the business grows, you're going to have more of a challenge getting hold of stock, aren't you?
It's what we do, right? We as we said earlier, we talked about the circular economy. Our job is to ensure that all the kit out there that isn't getting as used as much as it should finds a new home. So what we obsess about every day is going after that supply and making that supply available through our platforms to then photographers, videographers, and so on to buy. So you're not wrong at all in saying that that's the thing that we think the most about.
What comes next then, Matt? I went away and obviously thought of bees over breakfast this morning. I thought, well, we've got Berlin and Brooklyn and Brighton. I wrote down Brisbane, Beijing, Buenos Aires.
We have a lot going on, so we're at the moment you will see us sticking to serving Europe, including the UK. I never know how to quite describe that now, and the US as the three core markets that we're in. We will be serving all of mainland Europe out of our Berlin location, because Germany obviously still sits within the EU. So we already have a growing platform that serves France, for example, and definitely you'll see us launch other dedicated European country platforms over the next 18 months. So there'll be quite a few there that come forward. I think as customers of the business, as users of the platform, people will see a lot of change going forward. As I say, the platform itself will be taking a big upgrade soon. The content production, as we mentioned, is really going to be ramping up, which should be great. And you will see us becoming better and better at serving the rest of Europe beyond.
Do you know, I don't think I asked you this question. I know you have an interest in photography, that's clear. But I am intrigued what Matt Barker shoots with today, if you're allowed to say a particular camera. You might now be all political and coy on me.
What do I shoot with today? I don't shoot as much as I would like.
I mean, you're in this marvellous city, Brighton. You can be shooting the most incredible street photography one moment, landscapes the next. With all that spare time you clearly have.
I'm far less accomplished than most of the people that work here now, so that's always an issue. But if I was going to go out and shoot, I would shoot on quite a simple setup, something that challenged me, like a fixed 50mm mirrorless setup or Leica setup or something like that. So
I wondered if I could get a brand out of you. Well, Leica is a good one to start with.
Yeah, I mean, I love Leicas. I've always loved them. We see a lot more of them coming through here than we used to. So I have a real passion for that brand. But if I was going to stick to the kind of more mainstay area, I'm still a Canon user. Ultimately, Canon was what I first started trading. It's what I find most intuitive as a camera to pick up and use. I'm less in touch with some of the Sony system now in terms of being able to pick up a latest Sony and instantly be able to get the most out of it. So I would always find myself picking up a Canon.
Is there a Canon you particularly choose to shoot with?
I've just started playing with some of the newer mirrorless stuff, just getting used to that. Yeah, R6s, R5s and things like that. Yeah. And in the past, went through the kind of 60D, 70D, 80D and all the various versions on that series. So yeah, fairly, popular, nothing unusual in there in terms of stuff I've shot with in the past, but yeah, definitely, if I was going to treat myself and go out and shoot, it would probably be a Leica.
Not a bad choice, I think you'd agree. We're almost at the end of our visit, but let's head back out into the warehouse one last time with Matt. MPB is expanding again, literally pushing through the walls to help cope with the amount of kit you and I are sending in. Plus, I'm keen to get a fix on just how sustainable and eco-responsible MPB is as a company.
So this is one of the new areas, isn't it, Matt?
Yes.
You literally, if we came last week, would have been joining in with it, I suspect, knocked through.
Yeah, we knocked through the wall at the weekend, as it happens. So going up about 50% in terms of square footage. There's more space behind here that you can't see because it's all shielded off at the moment on both ends. But yeah, just making sure that we've got more capacity to expand the breadth and depth of the inventory for our UK customers, in this case, where we are today.
So this is what you call a picking department here, isn't it? Essentially, they go through to the room we've just come out of, which is the biggest, most amazing toy room I've ever seen in my life with the equipment that you have in there. But they go in there, pick that out, bring it out here to distribute it.
That's right, yeah. So we just came out of the stock room, as you say, probably 15,000 different items in that room. And if it's not actually the hugest space in here, it's probably more like 20% of the square foot now. And they're physically small items, so you can get a lot of stuff in one space. But the guys go through that door over there, so they've got their own door for picking and packing, as opposed to put away, which is on the other side, and it all comes out here. And one of the things we're actually most proud of on our dispatch team here, and what we do on dispatch, is that when it was just before the pandemic, I think, so probably 2 years ago now, we went zero plastic on dispatch. And it doesn't sound like the most innovative thing. You think everyone's doing it, but nowhere near enough people are. So we replaced out all of our bubble wrap, replaced out all of our infill, replaced out all of our own brand packaging as well, so everything is 100% recycled materials, and actually looks much more beautiful as well when you receive it. So yeah, it's again another kind of aspect of us, I guess, being quite innovative and staying ahead of things, and also making sure that we're thinking about the sustainability of what we do as well.
Because you have your own MPB boxes if somebody returns a camera that wasn't in its original box. Now you seem to have things that are purpose made for every size of camera, it seems to me.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, so all the white boxes there that you can see in front of us are all our own brand ones. So if we don't have the original manufacturer packaging, then buyers receive them in an MPB box instead, which again, we use all recycled infill. We've all got different sizes and versions of those boxes to accommodate the majority of products. We're trying to expand it to cover everything. It doesn't quite cover everything at the moment, but certainly the majority. That is true. So
what happens with all that nasty bubble wrap that's sent in?
So that's actually this year's project. So we have got a head of sustainability, I should say, who starts in 3 weeks, which is really exciting. We just hired the head of sustainability, who was head of sustainability at Gatwick Airport, so a big hire for us, to come in and really further this. But actually this year, as a quick win, we are going to be at a point by March where we have zero to landfill on our inbound waste. So obviously when sellers sell to us, we can't control. We try to encourage, thoughtful packing of equipment, but we can't completely control how people choose to pack their kit. We like to encourage people to, use old clothes and things like that we can then recycle out the other end, and we'll continue to encourage that. But we do get all manner of different waste, obviously on inbound, but by March we're confident that globally we'll have zero to landfill out of our sites. And so making sure that every bit of waste that comes in gets pushed back out to some of it's going for reuse. So we're working with the Disabled Photographers Society in the UK as an example on some of the bags and other items that we get in, so that they can then take those and resell them to raise funds. We're working with electronic waste partners for some of the more specific difficult stuff like batteries, to make sure they don't go to landfill. And then on the all the other different types of waste we've just got different partners that we're working with globally to make sure that gets disposed of in the most sustainable way. So yeah, it's an exciting project and something that we should all be thinking about.
Matt Barker. Well, keeping a watchful eye over the storeroom that we've heard so much about is Gareth, and we're closing our tour of MPB with him. He wears several hats in the management team, that of security being one of them. He'll talk too about sustainability of the company, plus share his photography.
So I'm the warehouse and security manager at our Sussex house site. So I work really closely with all teams, try and make sure their lives are as easy as we can possibly make it in terms of workflow and equipment, supplies, things like that. Looking after the property. So at the moment we've had a big expansion, so I've been working with our premises manager who's kind of led that, and then speaking with the contractors on site and just getting involved in that, so that's really exciting. And then more day-to-day is maintenance and making sure we're safe and sound, really.
Do you know, there's a lot to be secure about here, isn't there? Because I went into the most amazing, I'm not sure if I said the right word to Matt, and I called it a toy room, because that's what it felt like to me when I went through and saw all the lenses and all the kit through there. I mean, honestly, it's like a palace. There's a lot of valuable kit around here.
There is, yeah. And I mean, we're obviously quite wary. We've got, kind of the latest and greatest security systems. And we've also got Brighton Police Custody Suite right next door, so they're pretty good neighbours to have.
Now, photography-wise, Gareth, I would not be surprised now if you said to me, I like to shoot film nil, because that's what everybody tells me, and obviously digital as well, because that's what this is all about.
Yeah, my first camera I bought with my Boots points when I was a kiddie, so it's a horrible Olympus thing, and everyone got perfume that year for Christmas, so I could get the points. And then my first proper job was at a Snappy Snap, so I had access to free film developing, or near free. Nowadays, I shoot with couple of point and shoots, and I shoot with an F100, and I'm about to buy a D700 again because I massively regret shooting it, and that's really nice because they've got the same form factor, so it means I can shoot film in one hand and shoot on a D700 on the other.
So you got rid of your original D700?
Yeah, I did, but one of the perks of the job is you can see all the bargains. If you don't mind something that's a bit battered, which I don't, you can pick up what used to be one of the best cameras in the world for a really good price.
You were telling me about, I know it's not your job per se, but the recycling that goes on here, and I said to you, I feel really guilty, Gareth, when I send stuff into MPB, because I'm putting it in bubble wrap, and you're doing your absolute best to come out of anything that's going to go into landfill.
Yeah, so any packaging that customers send, whether that's bubble wrap or paper or anything like that, it all gets recycled. So we've got our receivers team who look after a lot of the recycling for us, and that means we can really shout about our kind of green credentials, so 0 to landfill, so anything that does actually go into the general waste is then burnt and put back onto the national grid in terms of electricity. And then outbound, we switched to no plastics a few years ago. So we use some products by a company called Ranpak, and that means everything we ship out is plastic free pretty much.
And even the Jiffy bags, the famous Jiffy bag that we know so well, that used to come with plastic insides, you don't have that one, do you? You've got all paper, haven't you?
Yeah, so even the Jiffy bags we use are biodegradable, so that's something we put in place quite recently. Even the SKU stickers that we put onto our boxes, they're eco-friendly as well. They use vitamin C in some way, shape or form, but it means, and we're constantly kind of reviewing how we can be more green. We recycle our coffee grounds and they get turned into logs, and we recycle all our food waste, and ad hoc recycling. Okay, a printer breaks, we can recycle that. Just really trying to get as much waste to be green as possible, really.
I think we recycle our coffee grounds in the outside in the garden, because apparently they're amazing fertiliser.
Oh, really? No, I didn't know that. I mean, the funny thing I've always found about living in Brighton is it's such a green city in a lot of ways, but there's no access to food waste. So I just thought that was quite an interesting one. But I imagine the logistics of trying to move it quickly and all the rest of it are probably quite complicated.
So we've talked about what you like to photograph with. What do you like to photograph?
Every year I make a kind of New Year's resolution to always have a camera on me, and I think I'm getting slightly better at it. But like kind of trying to keep a diary or a scrapbook, and it's friends, it's memories, it's places.
Could you do a 365?
Maybe. I've thought about it quite a lot. I mean, I've been a bit bad and thought about doing it on my phone, but it's kind of getting yourself into the mindset that you can do it every day. But I might have to buy a smaller point and shoot so I can always fit it in my pocket.
See, there's always a reason to buy a kit.
Yeah, no, always. And I mean, I used to work on the product specialist team, and the great thing about working here is you'll handle kit that you'll never be able to afford. But it is cool because you can handle everything. You already know how it's going to feel, how much it weighs, the kind of quality of it, and it's like getting to play with toys and get paid for it, really.
So where do I sign up, Gareth? Well, it's been a different cast, and great to talk with some members of the team from the company who've invested time and finance, and most importantly, belief into this podcast. I have a passion for MPB, genuinely, and that's what's made my time working with them really special. Podcasts are still actually quite a new thing, and it was encouraging to see so many of the team with headphones on, listening to podcast playlists. And Alex, I did spy that you were listening to one of the latest episodes of this one as I pulled up at your workstation studio. Quality is clearly something very important to Matt and the team, and that's something that I share in producing this cast. So let me thank the team, including Patrick and Carl, who I speak most regularly to, and to those of you who have and continue to buy and sell and trade through mpb.com as a result of this partnership. Being passionate is a word so overly used in social media exchanges, but in MPB's case, I see it. I see it in those who have the company at the heart of their everyday. We're back Friday when we're on our photo walk with a mailbag. This week, your photo plans, ideas and discoveries about yourself, from 2021 going into 2022. How you never know what's going to become your photographic life's mission. And Robert Gumpert in San Francisco, who has a human story that he's been telling through his photography to share from the streets. Music on the show from the incredible artlist.io. And I look forward to photographing with you, hearing from you and talking with you next time.
Photography Daily is a Loading Zone production.